Good hello to you. I've just gotten a hold of Harmony 14, and lo and behold, all of the screen real estate is in its original default position. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to show you how I personally like to have my windows and toolbars and everything set up by actually going through and setting it up from the default together. The first thing I like to do is get rid of the file and edit controls. This is something that most of us just do via shortcuts, so there's no point in having it take up space. File and edit off. Deformation I do have, Workspace I do not. I very much like to have advanced animation turned on. I like to have display turned on. We'll also be making use of onion skin and flip. Sometimes it stacks vertically like this. Pull on the left tabs, place it up in the order that I so desire. There we go. That's how I like to have mine set up. Because these are transformation controls, these are deformation controls. So it's kind of like one long toolbar that's all grouped together. Display is particularly handy if you're a heavy user of the node network, whereas these are very handy for traditional animation. Next, I usually keep my camera view toolbar up, as well as timeline controls. Timeline view. Personally, I'm not too fond of having the playback controls down here, but I can't just pick up and drag it to the top, so I need to turn off playback here and turn on playback up here. And I like to have that wedged right in between. Okay, individual toolbars set up, particularly along the timeline ones, there's a few preferences. So I'll right click and go to customize. Let's see what we got this time. I don't think this one is on by default, I quite like it, so pop that one over there. Let's see if there's any new goodies. I think adding these individual layer types is new, but I still like to go to that plus sign, so that's not necessary. Ooh, applies ease to selection, that could be handy. Track color, might give that a go. Heading on down, I am very fond of having lock all. And scrolling on down, there's a bunch of locking preferences that I am very fond of. Lock all and lock all others is among them. Don't really need the regular lock because you can just get down to it in the layer itself, so whatever. But likewise, unlock and unlock all. Oh wait, no, I don't need unlock, just unlock all. Show functions. I'm not sure if that was there before. That could be nice. Remove duplicate key exposure. That will also be very handy. Okay, I think that's all I need for the timeline view. And I would bin a couple that I don't want, but all of these look very useful. Maybe the go to previous and go to next keyframe because I got those as shortcuts, so I don't need them as buttons. I'll do a bit of reordering as well. It'll make sense to have this slotted up with the other key exposures. Just kind of categorize everything together. So the two ease controls there. Guess I'll put that function button with them as well. Lock and unlock is fairly important, so I'll pop that up just after the motion stop motion, I think. Okay, that's all I need for now. Hit apply. And, my new toolbar. Anything for camera view. Most of these tools I already have available somewhere else, so I don't need too many. But I quite like having a shortcut here to different fill presets. Bring forward and backward is handy to have. Edit selected symbol is a very handy one. Flip drawing, I'm gonna pop over and put them next to flip layer. Remember how they're two different things. A bunch of the regular tools appear in here, most of them in fact. Some of the timeline controls as well. I'm going to throw over set IK nail as well. I've sent over the bring forwards. I'm going to throw over the send backwards. These I believe have keyboard shortcuts, but sometimes I forget what they are. Deselect all would be handy for when I'm in a different tool that's not the selection tool. There's a few more of these that I'm just curious about that I'm going to experiment with later. Things like highlight selected color. What the heck does that do? One way to find out. I'm going to pop over backlight and different fill chart options as well. I'm probably getting a bit greedy by this point. So just one more reset transformation. Is that too many? Oh, that's a lot, isn't it? Okay, I have keyboard shortcuts set up for onion skin exposure, so I can ditch those. Bring forwards and backwards, I can remember the shortcut for that, but bring to front and center back, that's something extra, so I'll keep those buttons. And now just a bit of reshuffling. All four of these will be heading up. Wanting to put the grids with the other grids, both reset transformations, and the back and front light. Where's the front light? Oh, the top light, there it is. Pop that up to backlight, and both those down underneath them. Don't need lock and unlock all, because we have those in the timeline controls. Off they go. Alright, cool. I think I'm happy with that. Much more compressed. Lovely. Okay, next I want to sort out my window layout. It's quite strange at the moment. Color, for some reason, is slotted underneath the tool properties. The way I personally like my window layout is quite unusual. But to start, I keep the drawing view next to the camera view. So rather than ducking back and forth between them, I can have both views open simultaneously. I find that really, really handy. Likewise, I have a third column for the node view. I can add new windows with this plus symbol, and I keep the node library underneath it. Like so. So then using this, I can kind of expand it across without really interfering with the rest of the interface. And rather than switching tabs all the time, it's more on this kind of expand and collapse system. So I can work with the whole node view. The only time I'd really need to get to the node library is when I'm working with the node view, so that, why would I keep it over with tool properties? Same with drawing a camera view, the way it's expanding sort of like this, I'm not terribly fond of. So I'm going to try reconnecting it and then replacing it there. See what happens. Ah, it worked. So now this is being treated as a kind of main halfway point, I guess. Huh, everything goes on that one. Is there a way to get it so that that stays put and these halves will work like these halves? I'm going to try and trick it into doing that by basically just getting rid of all of this, because I'm going to be starting again anyway by putting color on top of tool properties. So X out of all of these windows to delete them. Oh, there's also another node library down here. I don't need that. But I do sometimes like to access my functions from down here. So plus symbol function. There we go. I'll pull out a new window for color. And fingers crossed when this gets snapped into place, it will work maybe. Will it? Hey, it did. Awesome. Okay, so that squashes and stretches everything. These two independent, these two independent, exactly what I want. Awesome. Ah, and now the library's been slotted in underneath both. Can I fix that? Yes, it kept working. Okay, so this area is probably where most of the tabbed stuff goes. So first things first, get myself tool properties. That's gonna live underneath color. Next to it, I'm also gonna have layer properties. And I like to keep the library there as well. And in goes the library. Interesting to note that whenever you plug the tabs in, it puts it on the rightmost side, and after the fact you can't really change its order. So yeah, I kind of just add them in the order that I want them to stay in. Meanwhile, I'm going to take an X sheet. X sheet's quite nice. That lives up next to color. Getting close to done with windows, I think. Oh no, I need a 3D stuff. So drawing and camera view, they are kept separate. But camera and perspective view, those I keep as tabs. Meanwhile, I get the top and the side views, and I keep one of them tabbed at the lower section and one tabbed at the top section. So if I want, I can quickly make this, 3D navigation workspace. Maybe one day I'll try putting them in yet another sliding category over here, but I don't know. I seem to like it like this. That is my window layout done. Oh, hang on. Camera view's been turned off. There we go. Drawing view as well, I give that its own set, because often I do just pull it all the way over and work in drawing view. So I'll set up those controls real quick as well. It's going to have a pretty similar layout to the camera version though, I think. Okay, saved you the boredom of watching me do that. I've set this one up now. It's interesting some of the things that don't carry over between the two views, but I got the different grid options as well as just the 12 and 16 field chart. There's also a grid view, which is quite nice. Got lightbox controls, make color art from line art, bunch of drawing manipulation things, flip up and down and rotate. Got paint bucket presets once again, repositioning, and just a few other bits and bobs, shift and trace, show strokes. So that one's done. I got a couple more toolbars to set up, namely the node view and the X sheet view. X sheet view comes with its toolbar set up, the node view does not. I'm going to customize these as well. I've set up the node view one. I'm just kind of ashamed that there's no duplicate selected node button. That would be really nice. Things to do with ordering the nodes, things to do with their thumbnails, selecting properties, moving about, bit of grouping stuff, and putting the navigator in different places. And now my X sheet panel. Things to do with columns, things to do with drawings, marking drawings, things to do with the desk, the shift and trace area. So at last I'm nearly done setting up the program the way I like to work. The last couple of things I want to do is a few adjustments inside of preferences, one of which is to allow us to customize the main toolbar. The first thing that we all become acquainted with, the main toolbar, seems to work a bit differently to all of the other toolbars that I've set up. Because if I right click, customize is grayed out. This needs to be activated via preferences. So I'm going to do all my preference stuff now. Okay, shortcuts. That's enough for a whole nother video. I've done a video on shortcuts before, but I want to customize mine even further. But by default, I'm really favored to the Toon Boom Studio layout. Now, of course, it is a lot dependent on what you're used to. Many, of course, quite like the Adobe Flash setup, but I like the Studio setup because it groups very relevant things together. So, for example, zooming in and out is by default 1 and 2 on the keyboard, whereas navigating frames is comma and full stop, you know, the lesser than, greater than arrows. They're on opposite ends of the keyboard, whereas the Toon Boom Studio setup, even though Toon Boom Studio is a defunct program, the shortcut layout is still there because it's so nice. Zooming in and out with this, zooming in and out with that is Z and X, whereas navigating frames is A and S. So looking at your keyboard, they're right next to each other. So 90% of the time, my hand can rest in one space, in one spot, and I can just kind of parkour all over the place. Meanwhile, it's tool presets. In most programs, they're named after the letters: B for brush, E for eraser, all that stuff. This layout assigns them to the numbers across the top of the keyboard. I quite like that too, just because all of your tools are in one row. It takes a bit of memory commitment to remember which one's which, but it kind of makes sense as well. 1 is the selection tool, I think 2 is the brush, and 3 is the paint bucket. So I'm gonna work through the tabs in order. Focus on mouse enter. That one I feel is quite important. You see this red box around the window? That means that's the window that's currently active. So if I zoom in and out, it's going to zoom the timeline. If I go over here, it's going to zoom in and out the nodes. If I go over here, it's going to zoom in and out the picture. Typically, you need to click inside of the section in order to change the focus. Focus on mouse enter does just that. Support gestures. This is quite nice if you're on a trackpad, because then you can do pinch to zoom and stuff. This I all leave the same, but you can find out more in the parameters and functions video. Current view border, red. No, I'm going to make that a nice onion skin orange. Under exposure sheet, I like to have center on current frame turned on. Selection tool I leave as lasso, but you might prefer a marquee. That's how you change that. Ah, what the heck? A piece of my tooth just fell off. Like, just fell off. I'm not kidding. It appears to be fine. There's no blood. It's not hurting. That's never happened before. I seem to have foolishly dropped it, but I think I found it. And look at this. Look at how gross it is. Oh, I don't know. This might not be it. It's probably just pasta. Oh, wait. Never mind. Here it is. Oh, look at the size of it. It's so much bigger. It's like 3 times the size. A whole like surface plate just kind of came loose while I was talking. I knew I was unhealthy, but I didn't think it was this bad. Anyway, the other things I like to adjust is under advanced, support overlay and underlay arts. Yes, that gives you 2 more of these. Video on that coming soon. Advanced display. That puts these down in every single window so you can look at something different to what your timeline is seeing. And finally is what I came here for, the flat toolbar. That expands this out, but for some reason, it requires you to relaunch the software when you activate it. Oh crap, I dropped it between the keys. Welcome back, and now you can see what's happened to my toolbar. Rather than before having to click and hold on each of the tools in order to get to each bit, I can just go straight to my paint, unpainted, repaint, etc. But I got a lot of work ahead of me customizing this. I don't want to choose too many because it will just pile off the edge of the screen. And all of these are handy, to be honest. So I'm probably going to ditch a couple as well. Okay, so that's all done. And something important that I should point out is these 3 tools here. Typically they're around here. I keep them up top for a couple of reasons, but hopefully it's not going to be confusing as you watch these videos. I keep them up the top because then the main free transform and the advanced transform tools, they're just kind of grouped together. I think that just makes sense. Directly under that is animate and show onion skin, which rather than being tools, they are switches. So I like to keep them together, and I like to keep them at the top because I guess it makes them seem more important. I don't know. And then the selection tools are underneath that. Vector manipulation things, art creation things, paint bucketing things, other things to do with vector line things, and inverse kinematics and morphing just slapped down at the bottom. So there we go. I've now set up my Harmony Premium, ready to work. If you would like to set up yours in the same way, it will probably make onion skin videos a bit easier to follow. It's totally up to you. Everyone's workflow is a little bit different. Their choice of tools is a little bit different. I find this to be a happy medium of most things. I'm able to get to nearly every feature of the program without much trouble, which is quite handy for me because, I'm demonstrating all the different ways that you can use the program. Oh, and sorry I forgot to record this, but there was one last thing. I fixed my window layout a little bit further by having the properties colors, all of the tabs here going right to the bottom. When it's cut off by a timeline that's going all the way up to here sometimes, this is all very cramped and squashed. The way things are set up now, it doesn't look like it will do, the middle completely solid, but that's okay. I'd rather be able to collapse it like so. So that's pretty good, being able to pull them out like sliders. But yeah, this is kind of my Swiss Army knife workspace. Thank you for joining me on this tour. Have some fun, and I'll see you in the next one.